The three positions in prayer. The prayer begins by raising hands up to the shoulders or earlobes, as if one makes a promise with God, that he has left everything for Him Almighty and will pray with full concentration. Once entered the prayer, one cannot talk, eat, look around. The first position is standing, symbolizing respect, readiness, and attentiveness to God Almighty. In this position, reciting the first chapter of the Quran, Surah Al-Fatiha, is mandatory, as it is considered the essence of the entire Quran. So much so that if one forgets to read it, his prayer is not valid. Let me translate and explain it to you briefly. I take protection of God against the traps of the cursed devil. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most beneficent. Praise be to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds. So, we acknowledge that all praises are due to the God, the sole creator, provider, sustainer, protector, and caretaker of all His creations. We acknowledge that there is only one creator and everything else in the universe is His creation, thus the creations depend on the creator. Such a creator must possess absolute power. He possesses absolute power, yet He is merciful. The most gracious, the most merciful. Master of the day of judgment. He is merciful but also just and fair. That is why He has already informed us that this life is not permanent. And one day we must die and stand before Him, to give an account of how we lived in this world. Thus, it is a reminder for us to be a good obedient servant of God and be a productive member of the society. For this we ask Him for help because He is our Creator and only the Creator knows His creation best. To You alone we worship, and to You alone we ask for help. Guide us on the straight path. The straight path is what leads to the pleasure of God. And His pleasure is the assurance of paradise. The path of those who have received Your grace, Your pleasure. We believe God Almighty sent prophets and messengers to guide us and to know our Creator, so those who listened to the message and obeyed God Almighty, His blessings befell on them. So, we ask Him to make us like those people. Not the path of those who have brought down wrath upon themselves, nor of those who have gone astray. Those who listened to the message and rejected or changed it, or killed the prophets, they faced God's anger, and stayed misguided. We ask God not to let us be like them. After this chapter we read some other verses and then move to the second position. The second position is bowing. In this position, Muslims humble themselves before God Almighty, acknowledging His greatness and submitting to His will. The third position is prostration. The closest a person comes to God Almighty in their prayers. It signifies complete submission, helplessness, and humility. This position is repeated twice in every unit. It is a great reminder that when we need help, only God Almighty helps. So, we must always turn to Him in any need. He will never leave us alone. He helps us even without asking, such as when we were in the womb of our mothers. We were weak, fragile, and helpless. Parents took care of us when we needed that the most. It reminds us of the favor of God. So, we must remember that our parents will grow older. They will be weak and will need us. We must be dutiful to them and take care of them as they did. In Islam there is no concept of old age houses. We take pride in being dutiful to our parents and guardians. Most importantly, this is the position common among many prophets while praying. A unit of prayer starts with a promise, followed by respect, submission, and humility. One unit of prayer hardly takes 2 to 3 minutes. The first prayer has 2 units, so we repeat these 3 positions twice. Second, third, and fifth prayer have 4 units, so we repeat these positions 4 times and it does not exceed 10 to 12 minutes. The fourth prayer has 3 units, so we repeat these 3 positions thrice, that hardly takes 7 to 9 minutes. Altogether, we spend worshiping God Almighty, only 50 to 55 minutes during 24 hours of day and night. To listen to Call to Prayer, or to listen to the first chapter of the Quran, or to know 5 foundations of Islam, or to know the steps of ablution, please click the back button, or press home to return to the main page.